could have happened to me.
So you met your wife Pallavi at medical school.
Yes, she was my classmate. And in the very first year, we started seeing each other, and that is unusual because normally in our culture, dating is looked down upon or it's immoral. So in that sense, we were an exception, a sort of talk of the college, because it took courage and boldness for a boy and a girl to talk to each other or do something in a isolated area, if you want to call it. You're always under public eye. You could never touch a female. That would be very immoral. But in that time, even the fact that we were going out together was something.
So clearly, you were unconventional, and so was she.
Yes, and I think she, in my opinion, needed a lot more courage than I. I was from Africa, had nobody there to look after me, while she had a family, and the culture itself prohibiting this type of behavior, if I use that word.
What was it about the personality and the dynamics between the two of you that brought you together?
Very hard to say. And sometimes it's just chemistry. One cannot explain what happens. If I may be bold enough to say that she admired my leadership qualities, and the fact that when I had approached her and she continued to reach out and stay with me, I think things happened. Had it been where she would not have been courageous enough to use her instinct of admiring me or appreciating me and wanting to go out with me, these things would not have happened.
Now, the two of you went through medical school, got married.
Yes.
In India.
Yes.
And then moved back to Zambia. How did that work for both of you? She had never been in Zambia or never lived there.
Again, I think for her it was a big step. For me, it was a normal, natural thing to do. I moved there. Throughout my life, I was very aggressive in planning things ahead of time. I finished my college and stayed for 2 days in my home and started third day to do my internship. So after medical school, not like they want to take a break and do this or that, I was ready to roll and go on to the next step. And finished that and started my own practice very next day from finishing the residency. So basically, I think my passion for work, my passion for my profession really kept me going. And we were doing very, very well. I was very entrepreneurial to begin with. In less than 2 years in Africa even, I had 6 practice locations, which is sort of unheard of from medical school and 1 year of internship, and to have multiple locations, hiring doctors and working. And from there, when we made a jump to United States, was a big difference for many reasons. You know, there you had the luxury of servants, chauffeurs. Your briefcase is carried by somebody, your shoes are polished, your underwears are ironed. Come here, you got to carry your own grocery, do your own cleaning. But more important, while I was in Zambia, I had stack of applicants trying to come and work for me. I had to go out and dish out my resume to several universities to apply for my residency. It was a tough time for doctors at that time. Fortunately for us, we got into the residency and were able to do things.
So you came to the U.S. in the late 1970s. You both did your residencies. Then you set up practice and moved to Tampa, am I right, in the early 1980s?
Yes.
How did you choose Tampa Bay?
I was as you know, we did a fellowship in the Columbia University area, and my younger brother, PC, had a motel on Bush Boulevard, just a block away from Busch Gardens. In vacations, we would come here, and I'm sure you'll agree, from shoveling snow to the sunny Florida, the choice was very simple. And because of him being here, we decided to come to Florida, and Tampa in particular.
So that was about 1982, if I'm...
1982 July I was here.
Okay, and you set up a practice, and how did you go about building your practice?
See, again, I was breaking the mold, if you want to say. Right out of residency, I bought a practice here. There was a Dr. Estrada whose practice was for sale. I acquired it. Again, entrepreneurial, had no money, but I had MD behind me and my wife's name, so the banks were happy to finance us, and I was courageous enough to structure a deal such that I could finance the practice and took it over. So day one, I took over the practice, and you know, the first month's revenue was $3,000, and I was wondering how the heck can somebody make $100,000, and I had one full-time employee and one part-time employee at that time. But as I stayed here, I was able to, within less than 4 years, build larger multiple practices, had over 20 doctors working for me. From there, evolved to own a managed care company, and by the time I exited, we had $100 million a month revenue and 1,200 people working for me. So a true American dream story that I lived here in my 20 years, less than 20 years that I was here.
Well, was it your dream when you started putting these medical offices together to build something big, or was it something that evolved as you began to get more engaged in the whole managed care business?
I think the true answer is evolved, because to be honest, I have achieved heights well beyond anybody's imagination.
Even your own imagination?
Even my own. I feel, and my father had this slogan in our house, it is called Manushya Yatna Ishwar Krupa. Means man's duty is to do what he is supposed to do, and it's God's will. So the fruit of your labor is in the hands of nature. You do your things, do the right things for right reasons, and leave the fruits of that labor to God. And fundamentally, I think I follow that philosophy. Work hard, do what I think is right, aggressively pursue that, and let the chips fall where they are.
Well, you had to make the decision at some point whether to continue practicing medicine, which you trained many, many years for, or run a growing business enterprise where you had skills and kept developing new skills. How did you make that difficult choice?
It was a very challenging decision. For about 5 years, until a company grew the size of $100 million, I was wondering to do both, but to practice medicine is a full-time business. As such, I was putting long hours. One of my fears were, A, that I will not be able to keep up with medicine. B, a bigger unfortunate problem for physicians is frivolous lawsuits. And at that point, they don't look at your mistake, but they look at your net worth. So I opted to go into business, telling myself that if I want to serve humanity, I can do it myself with my own hands, or I can continue doing it myself but leverage it with resources that I can make more by taking a new path. And again, the managed care company, which was at $100 million, in 5 years we were able to take it to a $1 billion revenue company. Now, I cannot take the entire credit that I focused there and things happened, but it evolved to that level, and we were fortunate enough to build it to about a $1 billion revenue company.
And you sold the